Hello. Today we are talking about the Last Judgment. And we are on section of Course in Miracles, chapter 2. And this is section 8, the meaning of the Last Judgment. So let's see what Jesus has to say about it. One of the ways in which you can correct the magic miracle confusion is to remember that you did not create yourself. You are apt to forget this when you become egocentric, and this puts you in a position where a belief in magic is virtually inevitable. So, what do we mean by magic? Again, we haven't talked about it in a while. So, magic is anything outside of us, anything that we are using that is outside of us, we think is outside of us, in order to get a solution. Okay. So it can be a medication, which, when he does talk about magic earlier, he talks about like you don't have to stop taking your medication, but medication is magic. Money can be magic. If we think if we get money, everything will be okay. That's a magical solution. That's magical thinking. Also, if I only get to marry this person, then I'll be happy. That's magical thinking. Okay. So anything that you are using to make yourself feel better that is seeming to be outside of you, meaning it's not your thoughts you're looking at. You're thinking if you get something outside of you, you will be happy. Okay. Your will to create was given you by your creator, who was expressing the same will in his creation. Since creative ability rests in the mind, everything you create is necessarily a matter of will. It also follows that whatever you alone make is real in your own sight, though not in the mind of God. This basic distinction leads directly into the real meaning of the Last Judgment. So he's talking about there's the difference between creating, and making. So creating is when we create with God. Okay, when we're tapped into that oneness with God and we are letting actually Him create through us. So creative ability rests in the mind, and everything you create is a matter of will. But what we make alone without God is real in our own sight. We see it. I think I see it. I think I see how this person is disrespecting me. I think I see what an idiot he is. Okay. It follows that whatever you alone make is real in your own sight, though not in the mind of God. Because those are not thoughts of God. Those are not thoughts that God would have. God would not think, oh, he's an idiot. God would not think that anybody is a sinner and should be punished forever. Sorry, God is love. He doesn't think that way. So this is the meaning of the Last Judgment. We get to use judgment in a way that is this of God or not of God? The Last Judgment is one of the most threatening ideas in your thinking. This is because you do not understand it. Judgment is not an attribute of God. It was brought into being only after the separation, when it became one of the many learning devices to be built into the overall plan. Just as the separation occurred over millions of years, the Last Judgment will extend over a similarly long period, and perhaps an even longer one. Gosh, you picture? Its length can, however, be greatly shortened by miracles, the device for shortening but not abolishing time. If a sufficient number become truly miracle-minded, this shortening process can be virtually immeasurable. It is essential, however, that you free yourself from fear quickly, because you must emerge from the conflict if you are to bring peace to other minds. Okay, so he's setting up what this is all for. Okay, so we are healing the separation. And as the separation took place over millions of years, this healing of it and take place over millions of years or seemingly longer. And the way that it gets sped up is by miracles. Miracles collapse time. And so the more people who are walking around miracle minded, the faster this healing will go. And how we walk around miracle minded is we remove ourselves from the conflict of fear. We remove ourselves from fear. And so when we remove ourselves from fear, there is no conflict. We're no longer in the battleground. So what he's saying is it is essential that you free yourself from fear quickly, because you must emerge from the conflict if you are to bring peace to other minds. So it is essential that we that I free myself from fear quickly. And that is what this is for. And, sometimes it doesn't seem to go quickly. But if you're looking over the course of millions of years and millions of years, one lifetime is quickly, right? 2 lifetimes is quickly. So, it's all relative. Time doesn't really exist. But our goal here is to free ourselves from fear. That is what the course is for. That is the motivation for doing it. That is the motivation for being here that we have given to the Holy Spirit. Okay, I made this place out of fear. I am now giving it to you. I want to escape from fear. That is the goal. That's what everything is for. The Last Judgment is generally thought of as a procedure undertaken by God. Actually, it will be undertaken by my brothers with my help. That's Jesus. So Jesus with his brothers. It is a final healing rather than a meting out of punishment. However much you think, or you may think, that punishment is deserved. Punishment is a concept totally opposed to right-mindedness. And the aim of the Last Judgment is to restore right-mindedness to you. The Last Judgment might be called a process of right evaluation. It simply means that everyone will finally come to understand what is worthy and what is not. Okay, so the Last Judgment is when everyone will come to understand what is worthy and what is not. And then there will not need to be any more judgment, because there will not be any more not worthy if we don't give it our attention. After this, so simply means that everyone will come to understand what is worthy and what is not. After this, the ability to choose can be directed rationally. Until this distinction is made, however, the vacillations between free and imprisoned will cannot but continue. Let me tell you, that is so true. It's so true. The moment I fall back into fear, I'm down in it again, and I'm in that place. And then I remember, and I'm out of fear, and I'm feeling peaceful and good. And then something happens and I vacillate and I go back. So it's telling, that vacillation, that here, sometimes it happens so fast, I swear I have whiplash. Sometimes I've had weeks where I feel like, oh my God, I have whiplash. I have turned around so fast over and over again, right? So it's not an indication that you're doing anything wrong. He's saying right here, this is what happens. The first step toward freedom involves sorting out of the false from the true. This is a process of separation in the constructive sense and reflects the true meaning of the apocalypse. Okay? So the separation of the false from the true. Everyone will ultimately look upon his own creations and choose to preserve only what is good, just as God himself looked upon what he had created and knew that it was good. At this point, the mind can begin to look with love on its own creations because of their worthiness. At the same time, the mind will inevitably disown its miscreations, which, without belief, will no longer exist. So again, it's that point. Am I going to give my attention? Do I want to create with God? Or do I want to miscreate with the ego, with the personal mind self? Which do I want? And the more I choose to create with God, the less attention and focus and belief or cooperation I give to the ego self, to my miscreations, they will disappear. And pretty soon I will only be creating with God. That's the process. That's what he's saying. And that last judgment is the one where I go, oh yeah, I'm all over here now. Doesn't even exist. There can't be another judgment because there's only one. There's nothing to judge again between. The term last judgment is frightening not only because it has been projected. Let's start over. The term last judgment is frightening not only because it has been projected onto God, but also because of the association of last with death. This is an outstanding example of upside down perception. If the meaning of the last judgment is objectively examined, it is quite apparent that it is really the doorway to life. No one who lives in fear is really alive. Your own last judgment cannot be directed towards yourself because you are not your own creation. You can, however, I'm going to stop there for a second. So you're not judging yourself. You did not create yourself. That it is not your business to judge yourself, and God doesn't judge. So guess what? You're only loved. You are judging, you're making your last judgment about your miscreations, the things you have created, the things that are seemingly in your world, your relationships, how you feel, your feelings, your emotions, your thoughts. And the thought comes through, is that when you're judging between, okay, is that a thought that God would have, or is that a miscreative thought? That's where you're judging. This is not about judging yourself, especially not judging yourself for any of the judgments you have made and chosen miscreation. Okay. You can, however, apply it meaningfully, or judgment. You can, however, apply judgment meaningfully and at any time to everything you have made and retain in your memory only what is creative and good. This is what your right-mindedness cannot but dictate. The purpose of time is solely to give you time to achieve this judgment. It is your own perfect judgment of your own perfect creations. When everything you retain is lovable, there is no reason for fear to remain with you. This is your part in the atonement. Okay? So your part in the atonement, my part in the atonement is to judge between my creations that I have created with the thought of God and my miscreations that I have created with the ego, and to choose which one I want until I no longer have the other one to even make the decision with, until there's no decision. And that's my part in the atonement. And that's your part in the atonement. And that's everybody's part, because that's the only thing we can do is make the decision about what thoughts we want. Okay? And that is the end of chapter 2. So that is a great way to end. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll be speaking to you soon. Love you. Bye-bye.